Welcome to Candid Conversations with Dr. Kelly, where we dive deep into the conversations that matter most to your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Dr. Kelly Utenham, a passionate advocate for brain health and wellness. And here on this podcast, we explore candid conversations about life, health, and the stories that shape us. Whether it's about mental health, sports, or simply navigating everyday challenges, we keep it real, raw, and relevant. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations with Dr. Kelly. Today, I am quite excited about the guest that I have today. It is Chef Anae Tomlinson. If you follow me on the socials, then you know that this is the amazing woman who meal preps all of my meals and keeps me healthy and on top of things. I absolutely adore her and am honored to have her on to talk about brain health and healthy foods and mental health and entrepreneurship and all the things. So, Chef Anae, will you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. Hi, you guys. So, my name is Chef Anae Tomlinson. I am a chef, a hospitality consultant, a event coordinator, and a bartender. I have been in the industry for over 10 years, and I've worked in all different types of hospitality industries from hotels, airports, to the nightlife. I've worked all over the industry, and it's a pleasure to be here and talk to you.
Thank you so much. Very, very glad to have you. I can't stop smiling. I love seeing your smiling face, and very glad that you accepted to come on and talk to our listeners. So, I do want to get into the beginning of your career, what got you into food, but I also want listeners to know I'm very excited to talk about your experience at the airport because a lot of people don't think about being a chef or being a bartender at the airport, and I think that's a very unique experience that I just kind of want to dive into a little bit. But before we do that, will you please take us back to the beginning and talk about what inspired your love for food?
Okay, so I began in the kitchen as a kid. My great grandmother is a gourmet chef, and then my grandmother is an amazing cook. Pretty much most of my family, we do really big gatherings. And so the kitchen for me always felt like home, it felt like community. And I was also really nosy as a kid. I'm nosy now, but I was really, really nosy as a kid. So I began in the kitchen with my grandmother, and she would just ask me to grab utensils. So she would say, "Hey, can you grab this and can you grab that?" Which helped me gain the knowledge of what to use those utensils for. So that was like real. I was really small. I would be on like a toolbox, like trying to look up to see what my granny was doing. And then as I got older, I started to, my granny would say, "Hey, can you help me, dice the potatoes? Can you help me do this and that?" And then there would be the other women in my family would be in the kitchen and they would be like sharing stories of like, other family members. The tea was being dropped in the kitchen, and I just loved everything about it. Right. I knew that it was a place that felt like home for me. Like I felt like when I was in the kitchen, that was like my safe place. Um, so that has always been my love, just having family and being in the kitchen with family, the commotion that goes on. I just knew I loved it. I knew from a young age that that was something that I loved. And then as I got older, I worked for Hershey. I worked as a baker. And it's no longer in Chicago. So in Chicago, they had a Hershey store. And one side was like merchandise, and the other side was actually a bakery. So that is where I started learning, like technical baking skills. And then from there, I just always loved doing like bake sales for church. I love cooking for my church. And as I got older, I went into the service and that was a time where I would cook for like the people in my platoon when we had different events. And then from there, it just kind of took off after COVID, I would say. And I've been cooking ever since.
Oh my goodness, what a journey. So
Yeah.
many places I want to go with this. First of all, thank you for your service.
Oh,
Will you tell our listeners what branch?
so I was in the army. Yes.
Wow. Well, I definitely want to dive into that a little bit later, but my almost my entire family is military, so I just, thank you all for your service and the sacrifice. I know what that takes for being a family member. I can't imagine for you as a service member, but we very much thank you for what it is that you do in your sacrifice. Um, and all of those, it's funny how you things in your childhood can really shape your passion and the things that you enjoy. Because I am on the flip side. Your journey is so phenomenal to me, which makes me curious. And I wouldn't say nosy, curious, inquisitive when you were a kid. I was thinking those words instead of nosy. But I had like an opposite experience. So, well, actually, my grandmother on my mom's side was a phenomenal cook. She worked in a hotel, a really nice hotel. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and you are from Chicago, right?
Yes,
Another
yes.
Midwestern gal. um, but my grandma, she was a cook at a hotel in Cleveland downtown, and she was always great at cooking. And my mom is she's the youngest of nine, so my grandmother was always cooking. But because of that, my mom had an aversion to cooking. And so she's like, my mom was always in the kitchen, and that made my mom not want to be in the kitchen because she's like, there's so many other things to do outside of the kitchen. And because of that, my mom didn't really cook when I was growing up. So I, learned restaurant etiquette very early because we were always eating out. But I think that's fascinating that you have a love for the kitchen because of your upbringing. I honestly, when I encounter a chef, which is why I'm always so fascinated with what it is that you do and your passion, I always feel like I'm inconveniencing the chef.
No, not at all.
I love that you love it. And I have to remind myself, like, no, chefs love it. They enjoy it. That this is, their happy place and their purpose, their mission. And I guess, my memories of the kitchen and cooking, it's like, okay, I'm gonna ask for this meal. Hopefully hopefully my mom will do it. And she always would make stuff that we liked, but it wasn't like, all right, I'm getting my apron, I'm getting down in the kitchen. It was like, let me go make this breakfast. Okay, for our listeners, you said your great grandmother was a gourmet chef and your grandmother was a cook. Could you please explain the difference?
So my great grandmother had like technical training, and she actually had her own catering business. So she had the technical training where my grandmother had life experiences. So she had, helping my grandmother basically, I would say all my grandmother had 8 children. My great grandmother had 8 children, and everyone helped in the catering business, and probably more than that. Probably my mom and my aunts too.
Wow.
So it was like all hands on deck when my great grandmother would cook. My granny on the other end is more like a self taught cook. However, she makes everything from scratch. Like it is amazing what she cooks, and the different techniques that she's shown me over time, and just her knowledge behind being in the kitchen, time management, how to prep. Like she's so knowledgeable, but I think it just came naturally for her, and also probably was a forced skill for my great grandmother, honestly.
So technically, she's technically trained since your great grandma
Yeah.
probably taught her quite a bit. And it sounds like entrepreneurship runs in your family, a catering business. You have your business. Can you talk to us about how you got into business?
So I started cooking right before COVID. I started doing like vendor events, birthday parties, things like that, and catering. And then COVID happened, and people were a little bit leery on if they wanted to hire someone to cook because that was a weird time. That was a very strange and it was also a very sensitive time for people. And I think at that time people had to regain the trust of someone cooking for them. So it was a little slow at the time. And then I got booked for like a birthday party. It was like a brunch. And from there, things just kind of took off. Um, and then things started to slow down a little bit. And that's when I picked up and working at the airport because I moved to Dallas. So I moved from Tennessee to Dallas. And at the time, I was like, okay, I'm starting over. Well, I'm trying to move my business out here, but this is totally different than Tennessee. Where I was a smaller town. It was a military town. And so it was kind of like word of mouth would get more business for me, where Dallas is a huge city and it was a little more elbow grease to put in to get business out there. So I started working at the airport to kind of like balance off the money that I wasn't making in that from Nashville to Dallas. And from there, I moved here to Charlotte. And honestly, the business that I had in Dallas and Nashville, I totally changed over my business. Where before I was doing more like Southern cooking and things like that, as far as catering. And when I moved here, I felt like that was a little bit oversaturated. And instead, I went into a different calling, which now is like healthier food, healthier options, and just giving people a chance at a balanced diet or balanced eating journey. So that's where we are right now.
Which I am grateful for because I get to benefit from the balanced meals. So thank you very much. Um, so your business is called Hope's Kitchen. Can you talk to us about that name? It's very significant.
Yes. So Hope's Kitchen comes from the middle name of my aunt, Sarah Hope, who passed away. My aunt had mental challenges, but the one thing that she always did with me was to cook in the kitchen. So she would try her best to make these elaborate meals. And I remember the one food that I totally dislike is oatmeal. And I remember her teaching me how to make oatmeal. And I was like, I'm never going to use this. Like, I'm never making oatmeal, like, ever in my life. And I just remember her trying to show me different ways to make oatmeal, show me different ways to make like different soups and things like that. And it was just amazing to see that even though she had learning challenges and things of that nature, that was the one thing that she was knew that she wanted to be really good at, and she just kept trying at it. And she ended up passing away. She had a seizure and she hit her head, and she passed away at a very young age. And I saw that the things that she wanted to achieve, she achieved so much with what they thought that, what doctors thought that she was going to achieve. She achieved a lot. And I just wanted to keep the memory of her and the teaching skills. Like, she would teach me something and she was so hands on. She was so excited about teaching me different things. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the same excitement, the same, enthusiasm, and teach others how to do certain things in the kitchen.
And again, we thank you. All of your experience, all of your family members. You said that your aunt died at a young age. How old was she?
I believe she was like 28 when she passed away.
Oh my goodness, that is very young. So young to have those head injuries. And did the seizure take place because of the fall?
So she had seizures all her life.
Oh, she was
Uh,
epileptic.
so she had seizures all her life, and she hadn't had one in a really like since she was like a teenager. And I don't know exactly. I was younger. I was a lot younger. And I just remember I flew home back to Chicago because I was living in Arizona at the time. So
I'm
for
gonna
the
have to get a map of all these places that you've lived. I'm like Chicago,
lived
Tennessee,
all
Texas.
over.
Okay.
So I was living in Arizona with my grandmother, and I had went back home for the summer for like a week, just like a short little bit of time because I was in cheerleading. So I had to go back for cheer camp. And I remember I like left, and maybe a week later, the seizure happened, and then my aunt was pretty much a vegetable. After, and they decided, not to let her suffer anymore. Um, and so, yeah,
Wow. That I've got my thinking cap on here, of course, thinking all things the brain. Do you know if she fell as a child or got concussed or had a head injury as a child, or was she born having seizures?
she was born having seizures. So it
Wow.
was something that um, she was born with. That's what, for me being younger, I remember maybe one or two seizures that she had when I was younger. But going into like me being a teenager, I don't recall her having any actually.
Wow. So you said she was young when she passed away, 28. That is incredibly young. And then you said you were young when it happened. How young were you?
I think I was like a sophomore, junior in
In
high
high
school.
school.
Hmm.
Okay. Oof. That is a lot of trauma. It
Yeah.
sounds like you were close to your aunt. So can we dive into what that does for you and your mental health with coping with something like that as a young person?
Sure. So I would say that it was tough. It was really tough, especially because I had just saw her like a week before, and she seemed healthy. She seemed honestly very healthy. Um, and so when this happened, it was almost like a shock. Like I almost like, couldn't believe it, you know. Um, but at the same time, I was at a young age, I was okay kind of with her passing because I knew she would not be in pain. And I now have like a guardian angel that looks over me. That's how I think of it. But as a young girl, it was a lot. To this day it's still a lot for me because like um my I feel like my daughter has some of the essence of her, and it's so funny because my daughter will do things and I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's just like Sarah, like, and then like my niece, she when she was born, she looked just like my aunt. And it was like, oh my goodness, like you just keep reappearing over and over.
Visualization of the guardian angel. That's wonderful. Okay, so I want to get into your military experience because we're talking about mental health, and I am definitely interested in the military space when it comes to brain health and mental health, PTSD. Well, one, from Chicago, you went to the Army. Everybody knows Navy. What the heck?
Oh my goodness. So I actually wanted to go to the Marines. Okay.
All
Crazy girl,
right.
right? Um, I wanted to go to the Marines, and my brother actually joined the service a little bit before me. So he went into the Air Force. And I was like, oh, like, I want to go to the Air Force. But at the time, I had already had my daughter. And one of the stipulations for joining the service that some people don't know about is that if you have a child and you're not married, for you to join, you legally have to give your rights over to someone.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a lot to recover those rights after you do that, right? And I was young. I was really young. So I was like, I don't think I want to do that.
How
So I
young?
went the most extreme way. And the army was like, well, you can get married. And I got married.
You got married. Give us your age at this time.
I think I was like 22.
Really young.
Yeah, I was like 22.
And you got
And
married.
and I got married. And I was like, at the time I was living in Chicago, it was kind of rough. I just had a child. I had my daughter when I was 21. Um, and I was like, my mom's like, hey, you gotta figure this out. Like one way or another, it's either you go back to school, which I was in school. And she's like, either you go back to school, you finish school, we'll figure it out as far as like, childcare. But she's like, but what are you going to do? Because I still was working at Hershey and I was not making enough to like live in Chicago and cover a child. Like realistically, I just was not. Um, and so my mom was like, you might want to consider going to the military. And I was a little hesitant at first because I was like, oh my goodness, I was in school, I was doing well in school. And I was like, I don't know about this, mom. And she's like, well, maybe go reserve. And I'm like, the benefits are not there for having a kid and being reserved. Like, it's just not. Um, and I was like, and I'm not getting married to be reserved. I'm not. um, so I decided to join the army. And when I went to the recruiter, she's like, you're going to have to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, like how much weight am I going to have to lose? She's like, you're about 45 to 50 pounds. And I'm like, okay. And at this point, I'm like, this is impossible. I don't think I'm ever going to join. Like, I started to have like self doubt. I started getting really depressed. And I remember my mom just being like, if you're going to do it, look at this baby. She is young. Do it while she is, small. Do it while she's still, under the age of 1. Like, do it while she's small. And get it over with. Like get basic training done, get all your training done, and start your life. So I was like, okay. So I probably was working out twice a day. I hardly was eating anything. Very unhealthy. Very
Not healthy.
unhealthy. I say it now and I'm like, it was very, very unhealthy. It took me about 4 months to lose the weight and to meet the weight and height standard. And I had already passed my ASVAB. So like when I went in, I did like she told me I needed to lose weight. And then from there I would do like weekly check-ins. So like every week I would go, we would see the progress that I'm doing with my weight, and I would be studying for like my ASVAB. And
What's the
then
ASVAB for our non-military listeners?
so the ASVAB is a test that measures like reasoning, math, like everything you pretty much learn in high school. They put it in a test and they give you a score from that. That score will give you um, a range of jobs that you can choose.
And this is when you are preparing to join the service, correct?
Yes. So
And
you go
every
through your
branch has a version of it.
So everyone in the military takes a ASVAB.
Okay.
That ASVAB will it's a like standardized test, and it has things that you should know. Like if you finished high school, you should know most of these things. Um, and so I was studying for it because you have to do a pretest. And then from that pretest, based on your score, they can kind of give you a range and say, hey, typically people score 5 above or 5 under. So you would be, good to go over to there's another portion where you do like medical and everything like that before you're actually able to choose your job, swear in for the first time, and everything like that. Excuse me. So I test really high on my ASVAB. Like I studied, but I didn't study that well. So I test really high, and she was like, "Okay, it doesn't seem like testing will be your issue. It's weight." And so I'm like, "Okay, I got really, really serious, probably a little unhealthy, and I lost the weight. Um, so the next phase of it is pretty much going to get medical, like your medical screenings and everything done. And then you also do your ASVAB. You do, and at this time, when you do your ASVAB, if you do not past the ASVAB, which means I think for the Army, don't quote me, but I think it is 24 that you have to score, a score of 24. Um, so if you don't pass, then you have to wait, I believe, 6 months before you can test again. So I was like, oh no, like I have to do well. So there is the ASVAB, and then they do kind of like a psychological test with that at the same time. You finish your test, you get your score immediately. So you get your score, they show you what you scored like for the psych part, and then they show you what your ASVAB score was. And then you go over to someone else that does basically sends this into like your recruiter, and they show you quickly options that you could choose for a job. Like in this range, this is probably what you'll be able to do. So from there, after you do that, you go back to your recruiter. Your recruiter's, it's like, okay, here's the next step. These are the jobs that are available for you. And once you choose your job, then you have like a ship out date. So at the time, I had a lot of like infantry jobs and things. I had jobs all over, right? One of the jobs I wanted to do was to be an interrogator, but that didn't ship off until way later, right? And I ended up choosing this job that I honestly didn't know anything about. I knew nothing about it. I watched the video and was like, oh, this looks really cool, and it had a ship out date that was like a month later. And I was like, that's the one I'm choosing.
What was the job?
So my job was in the military, we call it CBURN, but is chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear specialist.
Good
So
Lord.
so the job is like it's kind of like an end of the world job, honestly. Um, so it's to find weapons of mass destruction.
Here's a quick break with a quick question. Have you joined my Patreon family yet? It's the best way to support the show and get even more of the real, unfiltered content you love. There are 3 tiers. The free tier has previews and short clips so you know what's coming up. The $2 tier gives you behind the scenes content, travel vlogs, and me getting real on some taboo topics. And the $5 tier gives you full bonus episodes of Candid Conversations with Dr. Kelly that you won't find anywhere else. We've already got hours of content waiting for you, and trust me, we have a lot of fun over there. So don't wait. Head over to Patreon and join us today. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
And that was my job. But a lot of times when you're in the service, depending on what platoon you're in, I was in a reconnaissance platoon. But if I wasn't, I would have done a lot of decom, which is basically uh, being in places to decontaminate them. Uh, so like the people that wear like uh, the white suits, like the level A suits, they wear like these suits. You see them in the movies and they're like separating people. They're like, go this way. No, you go this way. We seen them a lot during COVID, actually. During COVID, there were a lot of people in level A suits, and they would go to the hospitals and decontaminate the hospitals.
Listeners, I am literally scratching my head over here, and it is because I have known Chef Ane for a nice little bit now. I I I can barely speak. I never knew this about you, and the only thing I can think of is, and maybe I shouldn't because I am a woman, hear me roar. You're just so cute. You're so she's so petite and so pretty and so sweet, and she makes these amazing meals. And she was a whole live discoverer of weapons of mass destruction. Oh my gosh. And you're just rattling it off like, "Oh, yeah, and this is what I did," and hazmat suits, good lord. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Um, please, finish this. I have so many questions.
So that pretty much was my job, honestly. So a lot of times when people hear of like they say chemical in the military. So when you hear someone doing a job in chemical, a lot of times people think it's like the gas chambers. So I don't know if you guys ever, if you watch military videos, sometimes you see people with like gas masks on, and they go into the chamber, and it's like tear gas basically.
Like
And
practice.
say it again.
It's like military personnel practicing and training.
Yes. So the you go in there, and we sometimes you do the tear gas and stuff like that. And then other times you can be attached to different units, like EOD, which is explosives and things like that. You can be attached to special forces. It just depends whatever you're needed for. But it's a pretty cool job. It's honestly a really cool job. It's
Scared.
crazy that I went to like AIT, which is like your technical training after basic training. And it's crazy. I think I went for like 4 months, maybe 4 months. And I like learned all this in like 4 months. So yeah,
Wow.
it's really
Wow.
crazy.
Did you deploy?
So I did not deploy. I didn't deploy. My unit was non-deployable at the time. So a lot of things that we did were stateside.
What does non-deployable mean for our listeners?
So it just means that we're not in a deployable. Uh, our unit isn't deploying. So our unit was attached. So like my battalion was in Fort Hood, and I was stationed in Fort Campbell. So in
And where are those for non-military personnel?
Texas and Tennessee.
Got
So
it.
like, I would say Fort Campbell's like on the edge of Tennessee and Kentucky. It's one side is Tennessee, and then you drive to the other side of Post, and you're in Kentucky. So
Oh, kind of two places at once with post.
yeah.
Okay, so you have experienced quite a lot. What does that do for your mental health? I'm listening to all of the things that you're talking about with being so young, having a daughter young, um, having to look at yourself critically after having a baby and, basically like you're not good enough or you're not good enough yet and you're going to have to change how you look. And you made some like very grown up decisions at a young age and pretty quickly as well. So could you walk through what that does for your mental health when you have all of those changes at such a young age?
So it is extremely stressful.
I
It
can
is
imagine.
really stressful, because I went from being like a college student, totally not worried about it at all. Like, you know, I was like, oh, I'm going to finish college. After I finish college, I'm going to apply for law school. And then from law school, I'm going to do this, and that. And that was kind of like a plan that my mother kind of was for. And then that was kind of something that like I just grew up, and I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna be a lawyer. Like, I think this is where I'm going. It was between like a journalist and a lawyer. So I knew somewhere in between there, I wanted to do that. Um, and then, of course, I made adult choices, and I decided to have my daughter. Um, and from there, like my world kind of like sped up a lot, because now I'm going from not really having to worry about finances and how much I'm making. And it's kind of like, as long as I can keep a budget of this, or I can, like, my college that I went to was like maybe 20 minutes from my house. So
What
like
college?
Chicago State University.
All right.
So I went there, and I was like 20 minutes from the house. If I needed groceries or I needed something, I could be like, hey mom, can you bring me groceries to to my dorm? Or I could just like go home. Um, Once I had my daughter, I things kind of changed where it was like, okay, um, this is like real life. Like this is adulthood in a. And I think that it gave me a different perspective of how I needed to go about my life and just knowing that I wanted something better for myself and my daughter. I think that was like the driving force was like, I just want something better, honestly.
Yeah. I know your daughter thanks you. What were you studying and what year were you in when you had your daughter?
So at the time, I was in my sophomore year. I was in my second year of college. Actually, I had just finished my second year of college. So I was going into my junior year, and I was in the pre law program at this time. So I knew at that time, like, this is probably what I want to do. But I kind of was like still in between the journalism and law. Um, but I was pushing hard for like contracting law. That was like the area that I knew like, okay, maybe something with contracts and maybe sports. You know, I was like sports management and contracting law. That's kind of where I was. Um, and then I went into the service and I did something completely different.
Completely different. Saving us from weapons of mass destruction. Woo! I mean, I thank you even more. That is one heck of a job. So when did you get out of the military?
So I got out of the military in 2019. 2019, almost 2020. Yeah.
Wow, right before the pandemic. So how many years did you serve?
That is three and a half, four.
Wow. Woo. Well, I'm glad that you made it through all of that. I do want to get deeper into the mental health piece. So I'm glad that you were safe and that you didn't have to deploy. But I'm sure that you have your own experiences of something that could have possibly, you could possibly have PTSD about, and possibly your service members or army buddies. I've heard battle buddies. What do you refer to your fellow army soldiers as?
So when I was in, it was battle buddies, and
Battle buddies.
then it changed to like warrior companions. Honestly, I don't
Wow.
know. A lot changed when I was getting out. There was a lot of things that were changing in the service. Um, I think I got out right around the time that they were introducing like transgender and identifying how to identify how they were switching over the barracks and things like that. So that's about the time that I was getting out. Um,
There was a lot of
and
transition during
it was
that
a
time.
lot of transitions during that time.
Yeah. Okay. So with being in all of that, is there could you speak to the mental health component of being in the military? I know that there is um historically, I don't know about now, historically there has been a very similar mindset to kind of what is in sports, which is, you kind of you shove it down, you just deal with it, you're tough, and you just move forward and deal with whatever it is. But I think now there's been more of a um, compassionate approach to mental health, and people are taking it more seriously. I know that there is a number of seconds, like I don't even want to quote the number of seconds, but there is a certain number of seconds where they say that a military or minutes where a military member takes their life. And of course, all of that I think plays a huge role with PTSD and things that people experience. So, could you speak to mental health and how it is handled in the military when you were when you were active duty?
Okay, so I'm just going to speak from my experience. When I was in, it is a lot of moving pieces. And I think from going from basic, where you're pretty much at the time for me, because a lot has changed. Like when I went to basic training, there was no cell phone, there was no there. I mean, you still were like, um, I would say we call it pushing. So that's like when you have to do push-ups and they drop you. So they're like, hey, you give me, 25 push-ups, right? And they probably would be yelling and screaming at you while you're doing it. Compared to now, from what I've heard, it's not so much of that. Like they're not really doing that. I went. I would say I probably finished basic and getting to my unit. They started like these cards where, still trying to understand it, not judging it. Um, it's these cards where, like, say that you're trying to correct a soldier and you're like, hey, do push-ups or do this or that. They can like pull out this card and it's like a stress card, and you have to basically like leave them alone.
Oh my gosh.
Totally different from when I joined, because yeah, you pull out a stress card when I was in, and they probably would throw it out your hand. It'd be like and laugh at you,
And
um,
double whatever you had to do.
and you continue to do what you have to do. So I think from that point of me, like when I got to basic training, I remember like it was like I got there literally probably at like 3 or 4 in the morning, like, and then from there I had formation at I believe 6, like 6 in the morning, and getting to my first like barracks, like the bunks or whatever. It was so chaotic. I think for like the first couple of days, I didn't even sleep. Like for like the first 72 hours, we barely got sleep. Like you did your medical, you got your shots, you got everything like that, and it was like this. And coming from like you're leaving home, so in your mind you're like, I know this is going to be intense, I just don't know how intense it's going to be. And as soon as you get to where you're going to do basic, it literally starts as soon as they open those bus doors.
Where
Like,
they're like the movies, like they're yelling at you, telling you to get off, get your stuff. Are they cursing at you?
of course, yes.
Well,
They're
now
not like,
I don't
hey,
I
they're not like,
right. Hey guys, come on off the bus.
like
Welcome.
no,
uh,
it's nothing like that. um so
it might
it's
be
kind of like,
now.
yeah, like maybe now, maybe like, hey, you guys get your bags and go up this way. And
Don't want to wake you or startle you.
no, it's like you get there and they're like, it's screaming, it's move, 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 go, go, go. And it takes a moment to like adjust. Like it really does. Um, Especially I come from a household where like my mom is pretty strict, but my mom doesn't yell. It's like my mom's not a yeller. My stepfather isn't. He's not yelling at me. Like I'm like their princess. So for me to totally switch and be like, oh, okay, this is go time. Like forget what you know. Like learn. Like you need to learn quickly. You need to learn how to adapt quickly. If not, you're probably going to get yelled at every day. And I'm like, I'm not a girl who likes to get yelled at. So let's get this together. Um, I will say that it is a shock. It is a shock that you're sleep deprived. Um, you have to get used to marching and learning how to march everywhere you go. Then from there, once you actually get to where like you have an area where like they're prepping you before you get to your actually basic training unit, right? And once you get to that basic training unit, it you thought it was bad over here. It's like this. It was intense. If you do not know how to take direction, if you do not know how to move quickly, if you do not understand how to control your facial expressions, it is going to be a tough time for you. Very tough.
One more reason why I would not survive the military. My facial expressions have gotten me in many, many, many
Many fix your face kind of comments. So
Yeah.
again, I thank you. This sounds like one heck of a shakeup to your system, um, to your life. You're away from your baby, all of the things. How has um how has your experience in the military helped you with understanding other people, stresses, um, possible PTSD, and then tying all of that into like using that for entrepreneurship and life skills? How have you been able to use that experience with your non-military experience with people and entrepreneurship?
So I will say that being in the service, I got to meet people from all walks of life, and I it gives you a sense of compassion for people. Um, and it also taught me not really, really not to judge a book by its cover. So I will say that I've met people from like I had one battle buddy that was like from Guam, and she was telling us her experience of living there, and it was so different from what I grew up with, or just I mean, she even told, I think at the time she told me like her rent was like $22, but she lived like right on the beach, and I was like, what? I'm coming from Chicago, and I'm like, rent is nowhere near that.
And the beaches are different.
And I'm like, and the beaches are way different. But it gave me an opportunity to really meet people and give people a chance to show up and show me who they are. Um, it also gave me a chance to stand firm in what I believe and who I am. So it gave me a lot of confidence. When it comes to speaking up for myself, when it comes to standing firm in what I believe in my morals and my values, and not letting other people deter me from those. I will say it also is a huge, once you get out of the service, um, a lot of people don't talk about the time that it takes to adjust. And it is it is a different world. Um, when you're in the service, you pretty much have a schedule day to day. Um, Most of your time is calculated. Like, you know that I wake up at this time, I have to be in formation at this time. I'm going to, work, do whatever I need to do during the day. I have lunch from this time to this time. It is very routine. Um, and that transition of you getting out, you're taken away from people that you have been with for years. You created, bonds with them, and it's almost like, honestly, it's almost like family, like a second family. Um, and then you have to kind of like transition your mind to a civilian now and not a soldier. So it's hard. It's really hard. And I would say it took me almost, I think I still do things as if I'm in the service, right? Like when it comes to making my bed, I'm like, oh, tuck the corners, do this. Um, and even like my time management and stuff, I'm still learning that like I don't have to be like this, you know? I can have some room to stretch a little bit.
Not so regimented.
So yeah, and even the way that there's a difference between how a soldier operates, right? How we do our day to day life, and how we have to um, uphold certain standards because we have sworn in. We have said that, as they tell us, you're like the elite, So there's just certain things that you just must do, and you feel weird when you don't do it, compared to being a civilian where you don't have those strict standards, You don't have like, when you go into a room, this is how you approach a room, or when you do this or that. You don't have to do that as a civilian, you know? So I think it takes time to adjust, but it is a hard adjustment. It is, I would say for me, that adjustment, it brought along a lot of depression.
Wow. Can you
Uh,
speak to that? Why?
One, because in that time of my life, I joined pretty young. This is what I know for most of my adulthood. And I it's kind of like your whole world shifts around. If you don't have people around you who are in the service and have experienced the things that you have, it becomes difficult to kind of explain like, hey, I'm used to having friendships and I'm used to being around people that like our children have grew up together, and now my schedule as a civilian is totally different than theirs, so um it's hard to like kind of merge our schedules together to continue to do these things. It's kind of like you lose family, and it's almost, I wouldn't say grieving, but it's like you're losing something in your life that you're like, this is what I knew. This was like part of my identity and I'm losing it.
That's grief. Grieving a former part of your life. So with that, you're not the first person that I've heard that from. Of course, my family is military. But the males, they don't seem to be as vocal about this transition. So, are there resources that the military provides to help with the transition?
So I will say that there are resources. I say that there are resources, and a lot of times those resources are, when you go to those resources, there are not a lot of people who are younger there. Um, and it's also, it's kind of hard. I would say it was difficult for me at that time to reach out to those resources because you have this thought, this mentality like, I have to be strong. I have to like soldier up. I have to continue, keep going. Um, I don't want to look weak. I don't, all these different things that go through your head because it's like, this is what I was taught over here, but now I'm having to learn how to have more compassion when it comes to myself. And I think it's something for me that was easier said than done because I would give compassion to others, but I wouldn't give myself that grace to say, hey, it is okay that you're in this space right now. You won't be here forever. This is not a forever thing. This is just a right now thing. But it was difficult for me to say that because you have so much pressure when you get out to continue to still have a lifestyle. You have a certain lifestyle in the military, and then when you get out, that lifestyle it changes a little bit, right? Where from the 1st and 15th, I'm going to get a check. Like I know as long as I show up to work, I'm not doing anything crazy. I know that my household is taken care of. Um, During that time, I went from like the breadwinner in my household, right? To then having to transition and figure out how my work in the service could translate into the civilian sector, which was it was kind of hard. Um,
Not a lot of opportunities for identifying weapons of mass destruction on the civilian side. I get that.
So it was like either I go hazmat, like have a job working hazmat, or I do some type of government job, right? Um, and now I'm looking at different time schedules for my child. It was a lot. And then I had things going on in my personal life, as far as my marriage, which was going haywire. Like it was just bad. And I was at a point that I was like very depressed. Um, and I had already been seeing like therapists and psychiatrists when I was in the service. Um, and I started like this regimen. I had this regimen that my psychiatrist put me on while I was in the service, like kind of like towards the time that I was exiting. And I literally would have a pill to wake up, a pill midday because I had such high anxiety from my marriage, like from things going on in my personal life.
Not
I,
even the military, your
and then,
marriage.
so
Mhm.
I was taking like anxiety medication. Um, I was like on mood stabilizers. Then it went to like now I'm on depression medication. And so I was like taking a pill to wake up in the morning, a pill to function at work, and then a pill to try to go to sleep. So like I was heavily medicated the probably the last year that I was in the service. And I just could not honestly function. I felt like a zombie. Um, and so going through that and then getting out of the service, I was like, I can't continue to live like this. I don't really have, I feel like I'm losing my personality. I'm losing who I am as a person. I'm getting out of the service. So now I really feel like I'm stripping myself of my identity. My marriage is pretty much over, um, and I'm having to deal with that. And then I then say, okay, I need to kind of like figure this out. Like I need to advocate for myself and figure this out. Um, I went to have like my VA medical documents, like for a disability and things like that. And I remember I was talking. You have to do like a medical examination, and then you have to do a psychological examination. And I remember I'm
To
like
get out of the military, correct?
no. So this is I'm pretty much I'm out.
Okay.
And now I am going through like making sure I have like my GI Bill set up, making I
Oh,
that like I have medical care for myself and my child. And then you go through a process for like disability to see if you qualify for disability, right? And so to do that, you have to go through like a medical screening to see like okay we're going to examine your medical records from when you were in and see how they're translating now and see if these injuries or these different situations happened while you were in the service. So I'm going through that process and I'm going through my medical examination, and I then have my psychological examination. Well, during this time, I'm like, I really don't want to talk about all the things that are going on. This man is going to pretty much say, like, girl, you are crazy. Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm being so harsh on myself. I'm like, he is going to be like, what? So we begin our conversation and we're talking, and he's like, I've seen that you've taken this medication and that medication. He's like, this is kind of like, you know, he's like, I see the anxiety medication, I see the depression medication, I see this and that. And he's like, let me ask you a series of questions. These series of questions changed my life because I knew that there was something going on with me. I just didn't have the medical knowledge to say, this is it, like to give myself a diagnosis. I didn't have it. Um, and we finished the questions, and he's like, he's like, I'm going to express some news to you. He's like, ask me all the questions that you want. He's like, he's like, you have bipolar. And he was like, the reason that you have not been diagnosed, before now is because you would have a manic episode when you would see your therapist or your psychiatrist. He's like, you would be in your manic phase. He was like, and then when you go see them again, your manic phase is over. You have not stabilized because you don't have the right medication. So now you're going back to your psychiatrist or doctor, your therapist, and you're now depressed. So they're thinking like, okay, we need to give her this medication to bring her back to here. And he was like, that's why you're all over the place. Um, and so he explained to me, he's like, you have type 2 bipolar. He was like, this bipolar means that your manic episodes are a lot shorter. He was like, but your depressive episodes will last a very long time and you will have more suicidal ideation associated with it. And, he pretty much gave me the facts and then let me ask all the questions I wanted after.
Wow.
And it might sound strange, but I felt relieved at that point because I knew then I could actually get the help that I truly needed.
Hey everyone, Dr. Kelly here, founder of Brain Talk Foundation, and I need your help. Every donation helps us raise awareness about brain health and concussions, especially in underserved communities. We're going into schools, talking to students, athletes, parents, coaches, educators, and speech language pathologists, making brain health education accessible and impactful. Brain Talk Foundation is a 501c3, so every donation is tax deductible, and every single dollar makes a difference. Support this mission. Visit braintalkfoundation.org and donate today. Together, we're saving brains and changing lives.
Before then, I felt like I kept getting tossed in the air. Um,
Can you tell our listeners what is bipolar and what is a manic episode? And then I think you're really going to raise awareness because a lot of people don't know that there is more than one type of bipolar. You said you're bipolar 2. Could you explain that?
so I can't give a like scientific definition.
Well, your experience,
Uh,
you're an expert in your own experience.
So I will say that bipolar, I will give you my own definition. So bipolar is having the extreme of two emotions. So you have one emotion, which is manic, when you are it's like you have a ton of energy. So it's like you have a ton of energy, you're speaking very fast, you barely sleep, you can go days without sleeping, you become very impulsive. Um, it can trigger some people sexually where they're very sexually active. Um, and people tend to make very haste decisions. Like they're making very extreme decisions that are not really thought of. Their adrenaline is going up really, really fast. So that is like a manic episode. They can be aggressive. Uh, it can be very aggressive. It can be just kind of like you chugged a whole bunch of Red Bulls and you're like this, right?
Does it happen or does something trigger it? How does a manic episode occur?
So it's different for everyone. What brings it about is different for everyone. I know for me, I typically am more manic during the spring and summer. Which for people that have type 2, that is typically what happens. The spring can bring about, you have more energy. Um, you're more willing to go outside and do things. And so it's like, woo, it's like you just have a burst of energy, but this energy is um, it's not like, just, oh hey, I've had a good day. This is like extreme. This is, you're planning things, you're moving at a speed that's so fast that to others it would be like, oh my god, did you have like coffee or something this morning? And it's like, no, I haven't slept for like 3 days and I'm on a go. So that's what manic can look like, right? But it also can look like someone who can get, during this time, that is when people are more aggressive, when they are more agitated, and you might see more. They're just it's a little more irritated. They can be very aggressive during this time. You might see people have more arguments, be very they are easy to be upset. in this stage. You also see people that uh, shopping. They will go on like shopping or financial binges. So they will, and this is something that I didn't know. I was talking to a psychiatrist about it. He was like, a lot of times that for people who experience type 1 bipolar, which that means your manic episodes are really extreme. They last a very, very long time, and it is very extreme for them in their manic episodes. They tend to have financial issues where they will spend till they're like in debt. And then once the manic episodes are over, now they're in, excuse me, now they're in a grief that they've spent all this money, and then that brings on the depressive state where they're like, oh, I shouldn't have did this. Oh my, and that's what can lead them to spiral. Um, and then for the depressive episodes, I would say for type 2, personally for me, they are very extreme. I have a lot of, I would say I'm a functional depressive, right? I can be very, I can go through a season, and I have, where I have been like suicidal the whole time, and I still get up, work, I still, take care of my family, and the whole time I will probably be thinking how I can end it, but I will never show it to anyone. And
Wow.
then it will just like, it'll go away.
How
Um,
how do you hold on in those moments? Because I have family members who have depression, or depressive episodes. Can only say that I have experienced a few days of what I felt was actual depression, and that was a hormonal thing, um, you know, PMS or whatever you'd like to call it. But it was the experience that I had. It was brief, but I was just thinking to myself, this must be what it feels like, where they're just negative thoughts and nobody wants me around, and if I weren't here, etc. Like, those thoughts were, I had never had those thoughts before, but I was thinking these few days of this, weird space of these just negative thoughts and ideations and all of that. When you're in that space, like with your diagnosis, how do you hold on when you have those thoughts? Because they can be very intrusive, they can take over everything. And how do you pull yourself out and go against what your thoughts are telling you to do?
a lot of those times, I probably have cried a lot. I will sit in the bed, I will cry it out. Um, and I think I just have a strong will to live. Um, and a lot of times I just get myself out of the space where I physically will either go, like, I love working out, right? So I will go work out. I'll go take a walk. I will, sometimes I just cook. Honestly, I cook. Sometimes I talk to family. Like, a lot of times it's like I'll just talk to family, and I have, a support system where I will say I have someone that I could tell her this, and to her, she would just listen. And sometimes I think that's what it is. You need to talk those thoughts out in a way with someone who is not going to judge you, someone who loves you, or at least cares for you. Talk it out, get it out, so you can hear it for yourself what you're saying. Because a lot of times, those thoughts are in your head, right? And they'll keep spiraling in your head. And I think you have to say it out loud and be like, no, that's not how I truly feel. Like, I want to be here. I want to be here for my child. I want to be here for my family. I have so much more life to live. I have so much more to give people. That's not what I want right now. Like, that's not where I am. And I think if you can say that, and once you say it, get yourself out of that space. So instead of being in, even if it's just like, I've had days where I'm like, I do not want to get out the bed. It is taking all of my strength. It feels like I have something weighing, like a ton of bricks weighing on me. And I'm like, I don't want to get out this bed. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to have to face the world today. I just don't. And it's like, okay, but can we at least go brush our teeth? And then it's like, okay, we brush our teeth. Can we at least take a shower? It's like, oh, okay, I've done two things. And then it's like, I might not be super hungry, but can you at least drink some water? Like, let's start there. If we can do those three small tasks, okay, look what you have accomplished today. You got out of bed, you made your bed, you brushed your teeth, you took a shower, you drank some water, you at least had a smoothie, you know? And it's like, okay, I did accomplish some things. It might not be huge to anyone else, but when you're in that depressive state, the smallest things can make a difference. You know, you can stay in bed and you can stay in those thoughts, and it will just keep weighing you down, to the point that you're like, you know what, I, this is just too much. And in that moment of time, you can make a decision that it is so, it can change your whole family. It can change the people that love you, you know? So I will say that for me, it's just, I literally just take it one step at a time, one task at a time. And whatever I can complete during that time, I feel like that's achieving something for me. Um, yeah.
What Thank you for that. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing this. I feel this is going to help a lot of people. Um, can you speak to people who don't have any experience with depression? They may hear people say, like, oh, I'm depressed, or, you may hear the term bipolar. I'm sure you've educated people about bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. So thank you for that. What advice would you have, or what would you say to people who can look at someone who is depressed or hear about someone being depressed and then say, oh, just snap out of it. Just, read a book, get up, go do this. And, they give these quick solutions that are not fully vested in the individual because, like you said, it can be different for everybody. What would you say to people who give very quick advice of like, oh, just get out of it, go take a shower and just snap out of it?
I will say, one, have some compassion, have some grace for people. Um, I, at my lowest of lows, I never thought that I would be there. At the highs of highs, I never thought I would be there. You don't know what direction life will take you. And you don't know, just being, sometimes it's better to say nothing at all than to say something. And at the same time, if you've never been in that person's situation or shoes, I don't think you have the right to judge or to be so critical of them. A lot of times, when I would say for me personally, when I have been very like suicidal, I have noticed that I will have a friend, or I will have like even a coworker that will say, "Hey, like, are you okay? How are you doing?" Or they will say, "Hey, you want to grab some lunch?" And it's those simple things that sometimes people just need someone to. When you're depressed, you already feel like you're a burden, right? You already feel like nobody wants me around, nobody cares. If they don't care, why should I care? I've been there so many times where I'm like, nobody cares. Like, I'm doing this on my own. Who's really here for me, you know? And it starts to spiral from there, right? And I just remember that one kind gesture has changed things for me. So I think people, just be kind. And if you don't have something good to say, if you want to be critical, just don't say it. Because you don't know, that one thing that you said could have just been that trigger for someone. That could have just been like, you know what, today it was already enough to come to work. It was already enough to do this. It was already enough to do that. And then you say something like, just snap out of it, like, get over it. And it's like, okay, I know a way to get over it. And that might seem extreme, but when someone's in that state, it's already extreme.
And you're describing something that, like a brain injury, not that this is an injury, it's a chemical thing that you can't help. Um, it's invisible.
Mhm.
And to look at you, to judge a book by its cover, you're this cute little, cute cheeks and just gorgeous face and stylish to boot, and hair done, always dressed very well. And, to look at you, someone wouldn't think she could really be going through it. And I think that raising awareness about this, talking about this, can really help change people's perspectives, because if you haven't experienced it and you haven't been in touch with or close with someone who has experienced it, for you to learn that compassion and have an understanding of, it's not just, oh, snap out of it, go for a run, something that's a quick fix for, something that could work for them, someone who has no experience with depression. I think that this information is going to be very helpful. On the other side of that, for people who do experience depression, or for those military personnel who are getting ready to transition out, or who have already transitioned out and are struggling, what advice would you have for them?
I will say what I can only say what works for me, right? And I can only tell you that if you can reach out to a battle buddy, right? Especially if you're in the service. Typically, you always have like one or two battle buddies that you guys just get along really well. And I will say, reach out to them, and if you can, spend time with them, um, because it will help the transition, right? If that is not the case, I say learn how to start building a routine for yourself that has small things in it that makes you feel accomplished. Um, I feel like when you can tackle a challenge, because that is something that in the service, like I didn't know how to shoot a weapon, right? But the more I did it, it made me have confidence in what I'm doing. And it makes me feel accomplished. It's like, oh, I have a sense of a little pride in what I do. Um, and I think just having a routine daily can help with the depression. Like having, okay, this is like my morning routine. This might be my midday routine. Um, and this is my nighttime routine. It kind of gets your brain going where it's like, oh, okay, I do my morning routine and I reward myself by this. Like having kind of like a reward system when you are going through your depressive state is like it helps because it kind of it brightens your mood a little bit. And I just think having if you can't go outside, because I know I've had times where I'm like, I can't make it outside today. The world is too much for me, right? Have learn an activity that brings you joy, rather that is listening to really good music, and maybe that music might get you motivated to say, hey, I want to dance, I want to get up and move my body a little bit. um, I know sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna get in the kitchen, I'm gonna take some stuff out and I'm just gonna cook. Like, I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna listen to some good music, and I'm gonna see where the day goes. Other times I've done like painting, like I will paint, and that helps. So I think just finding healthy outlets, something that you can look at and be like, wow, I did that. I did that. You know, that has helped me a lot when I'm just like, I can't make it out the house. I don't have nobody's answering the phone. I can't make it out the house. I'm like, you know what? Let me put on some good music with some good frequency, some good vibrations, and I'm just gonna listen to it, and I might sing, I might dance, and it'll just bring some kind of smile on my face. I just think having a healthy outlet, healthy hobbies or healthy outlets, something that just brings you healthy pleasure. um, I think that can help a lot. I think that can help.
I agree. There is a magic in music and movement and dance. I mean, if people follow me, they know that I love to sing and dance, especially in the mornings getting ready. So I think that all of those are positive things. It sounds like those things work for you. So I hope that people listening, that it can help them if they are experiencing it, or if they know someone, love someone who is experiencing any kind of mental health crisis and need just a pick me up. So thank you so much for that. And of course, you know, you said that you love cooking. That helps you with your mood sometimes. Your business is Hope's Kitchen. Can you tell the listeners how they can find you and anything that you have coming up that you would like to promote?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram, and it is hopes.kitchen1. And
The
things that
number
I,
one.
the number one, like the number one.
We'll have that in the show notes for you all.
As far as things that I have coming up, I am getting in the world of vending. So I I do events where I host my own events. And I've done like charcuterie classes. I've done mocktail, like bartending classes. So now I'm moving into a space where I will host events. Um, and I'm really excited about that. Also, I will be working on a YouTube channel that will come out during the summer. So I will be showing like the behind the scenes of me setting up for events, attending different events, and also cooking in the kitchen. So you will see me. I'll have recipes that'll be posted. You will see the whole process of me cooking and prepping. I will give tips, how to cut down the cook being in the kitchen for so long, because I know some people are not like me and they don't enjoy being in the kitchen all day.
B.
And it's not realistic for some people, you know? So I want to have a series. I've started it on my Instagram, but meals under an hour. Yes. So I will give the tips and the tricks, and I will show you things that you can do. So when you do cook, you can expand your meals, not just to like one night. You know, you can kind of expand it out. And I'll have like time management things on there, just ways to kind of cut down the time in the kitchen. Also, show you like cleaning techniques to make it easier for you to get through and not literally be in the kitchen all day. Um,
Love that.
Outside of that, yeah, that's pretty much what I'll be doing. I'll show different mocktails. So all the meals will have like a cocktail or mocktail with it. And I will just show you my world. Like,
What's the name of the channel?
I haven't came up with it
Okay, all right.
yet.
Well, we will, you know, I love to promote anything that you have going on. I just believe in
Thank you.
what you're doing. I love your story. I love your cooking, obviously. And we have done a couple of mocktails together talking about brain health, and we're actually doing a series on that. So stay tuned for the upcoming mocktail that we created. And we're also going to be getting together to do some recording for brain healthy foods that are easy to make in the kitchen. So everybody stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here. This is the part of the podcast where I like to do the candid questionnaire. So that's 5 fun questions so that our listeners can get to know a little bit more about you. But I think you've been so candid. You've been so candid. Okay, so first up, what's one word your friends would use to describe you?
Extra.
Extra, really?
Extra. I am like, I'm I will probably say glitter on everything, sparkles on everything. I'm like, it's
See,
big,
I
but it can
love
be
that.
bigger. I am extra.
I love that though. I love it from like your hair to your makeup to your outfits, like even the glasses that you are wearing today, like you are popping. I love the extra. So, not that it's a negative thing, but I'm just like, extra really? I'm thinking fabulous, fun, bright. All good all good descriptors. Okay, number 2. If you could instantly master any sport or physical skill, what would it be and why?
Ooh. I would say track, like running,
Really?
running. I am not a runner. I love going to the gym. I'm here for it. I will do like an inclined walk, slight jog, but the people that can run for long distances or like sprint, oh, give me their knees, please, and their lungs. Like, give it to me.
I'm I have no desire to run long distances. I did run track in high school. I was a sprinter and a field event gal, long jump, triple jump, and high jump. I did pole vault for a very short amount of time, but I
Ooh.
just don't like feeling like I can't breathe. And I know there are all kinds of techniques and whatnot, and it's just that is I commend you for that skill. Um, Okay, number 3, what's one activity or hobby you find most relaxing or beneficial for your brain?
Ooh. Mm. I would say exercising because I do so many different forms of it. I do yoga. I dance a lot. I dance. I just started like learning belly dancing. So yeah.
Shakira?
I would say like just exercise. Like I feel like exercise changes so much, not only for your physical body, but like just for your confidence and your self-esteem. Like it really helps and it keeps me sharp. Like I love to exercise before I have a meeting or anything like that because I'm like on my A game. It really, really helps.
I like that. That's a good tip. Work out before a meeting. Yeah. Get those chemicals to release in the brain. There's like a really good feeling after you work out. I love that feeling of accomplishment. Okay, number 4, what's the weirdest or most unexpected item in your bag or car right now?
Ooh. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of like a simple gal when it comes to my my purse.
But if
I
someone were to look in there, what would be something that they're like, "Oh, what's this?"
probably I'm like a breath mint girl. Like I won't have gum. I'm not a gum girl. But I have like old school mints in my purse. I'm like an old lady. I have like the Altos, like not the flavored ones either, like just the
The
regular ones.
originals?
Say it again.
The original Altoids? Oh
I
my
do.
gosh.
I have like the originals, and I people are like, "Oh, do you have mints or gum?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, here you go." And they're like, "Really? That's all I
With
got for you."
the tin and then the dust flying when you peel back the trash paper. You look too young for to be an Altoid carrier, but I'll take it. That is unexpected. Okay, last question. What's your go-to guilty pleasure TV show, movie, or song?
Ooh, guilty pleasure. I would say I'm a podcast girl, but like I will watch like the podcast where I say a little ratchet TV, like a little bit. You need a little bit in your life. So I
A
love
little
like
ratchet.
I love like housewives and like the old school housewives, like Housewives of Atlanta that still had like Nene Leaks on there. That's what I'll probably go to as like a guilty pleasure. Or like Golden Girls Dynasty, like the old school Dynasty, not the new one, but the new one is great. But like the old school Dynasty, and if I could find the soap operas, I found them once, but like the old school Days of My Life type of thing, that is my guilty pleasure. Mhm.
Okay. I mean, you had me at Golden Girls. That is my jam. I love that show so much. Love all the ladies on it. And I think I have such an affinity for it because of my grandmother. She and I were very close. And I would come over to her house and she would be watching Golden Girls. And you don't talk during Golden Girls. Shh, don't ask any questions. So I love Golden Girls. I'm with you there. And then Dynasty and Days of Our Lives, classic soap operas. Do you still watch them like in real time?
So Dynasty, yes. Yes, I do. Days of Our Life is kind of hard to find, like the old ones, because like, they still, I think they have still have like some soap operas like Guided Light and stuff like that. I used to watch them with my great grandma. Like that was like the show I could watch before I went to go take a nap.
Right around nap
So
time.
that was like nap time, like 12 o'clock ish, 12 to like 2 o'clock. That
You can
was
hear that music coming on.
so I still try to watch them here and there, but like it's hard to find the old episodes, like the older ones.
Yeah. Well, I love that. All good things, healthy brain activities. Everybody, please stay tuned because we will have more coming up with healthy brain foods, and you'll see the second part of our creating mocktails. So be on the lookout for that. Chef Anae, thank you so much. This has really been a candid conversation. You dropped so many gems, gave so much insight into your journey, and I think that's really going to help other people. So I just thank you so much for coming on and sharing and being as candid as you were.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kelly. You gave me a opportunity to share my story, and I'm so thankful for it. So thankful.
Well, we are a great team. I thank you very much. And I know that we will get up together very soon. We've got some content to create and some hanging out to do, catching up to do. I absolutely love and adore you. I love your story and all that you are bringing to the world. So I thank you again. And this has been another Candid Conversation. We will talk soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Candid Conversations with Dr. Kelly. I appreciate you being part of this journey and these powerful conversations around brain health and beyond. If you're loving the podcast and want even more bonus episodes, exclusive Q&As, stories from my professional and personal life, behind the scenes moments, and yes, those bloopers you all love, then I invite you to join my Patreon family, where we always keep it candid. Your membership gives you access to all that bonus content and helps keep this podcast going strong. Plus, every contribution helps support our mission to raise awareness, educate, and empower others about the silent struggles so many face. So head on over to patreon.com/Dr. Kelly to join today. I'd love to have you. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and as always, keep it candid.